So what I did is I just basically included a site here, and this is on page speed. So if some of you want to do something right now that are listening, you could just Google Google page speed test, and what you'll find is this page speed insight on google.com will pop up, and you can throw in your website and then hit analyze, and essentially you're going to get a score. So I'm going to just do that really quick here. So in this particular site, it looks like we've got a score of 50, and you can see there's a mobile and a desktop. So the desktop score is actually 84 and the mobile score is 50. And what's kind of cool, if you really want a little bit more in-depth information, is that you can kind of get an idea of where the breakdown is, and then it even summarizes the opportunity. So removed unused JavaScript, and I'll admit I am not a web developer, but these are definitely the types of issues that we see over and over and over again out there. And I guess my big thing is, trying to help everyone really utilize some of the free tools that are out there to help you begin to assess maybe where you're at. But the idea here is you can get a really useful score in a matter of seconds. So that's going to kind of be one of my themes throughout the day here. And then I'm going to just switch gears. I'm going to do a Google search, and I'm going to just type, for example, a business contract lawyer, Minneapolis, Minnesota. So in this particular search, I'm asking, hey, what's popping up, right? And so at the top, we have the Google AdWords. So these are, pay-per-click ads. You can see that there are 4 of them at the top. And then you can see actually the local optimization, or that map. So that's the second point I'm trying to make here, is that local map. So essentially that's MPETITIVE, Schaefer, Helene, and Bertelsen Law Office are all popping up in what we call the 3-pack. But ultimately, this Google My Business, going in and claiming my Google My Business page, is really important. And the idea is you can kind of think of your Google My Business page as Google's record of your business. So if you don't create meaning with this firm here, I would definitely say, or with the Google My Business, you're definitely, going to, be, I think, left behind in terms of the search engines. One quirk is shared offices. Google, for a number of different reasons, is not huge on shared offices or shared office suites, partly because it is a spam risk to them. So if you are in a shared office, creating visibility in the 3-pack, it's just a little bit of a quirk that I want everyone to be aware of. But the idea is, with your Google My Business profile, you really want to add photos, a website link, also a keyword of meaning. A lot of time you can actually select a keyword, whether it's personal injury or estate planning, in your Google My Business page. You can add hours, and then you have to verify your Google My Business listing. So a lot of times that's sent with a postcard. And unfortunately, Google's service on Google My Business is not what I would say spectacular. We oftentimes have issues getting them verified, but once they are fully verified and you have access to your Google My Business page, they usually operate pretty smoothly. So you can see in MKT law, he has selected trial attorney. You can see Schaefer Helene has actually selected employment attorney. And if I'll just do say business divorce lawyer Minneapolis, just to kind of switch things up to see how that impacts search results. And lo and behold, too, you'll see like Franz Davis, Lake Harriet Law, 45 and 27 reviews. Google reviews are definitely a huge deal. So in addition to going in and claiming your business, especially if you're in the Twin Cities in a competitive market, if you want an opportunity to show up in the 3-pack, collecting the reviews is definitely a big deal. In terms of the website essentials, I also think, and I'll kind of cruise through these attorney bios. If you haven't rewritten your attorney bio, I would absolutely take the time to review that and begin to ask what your brand is. Really elaborate on it a little as much as possible, and make it personable as well. But also create a little bit of depth and meaning to your potential buyers. And at the end, I'll provide some resources for you guys, for everyone to update their bio information. Headshots too, really important. And I know COVID may make it a little bit more difficult potentially to get some headshots, but I will say that profile pages, generally speaking, are the second most visited pages on a website beyond the homepage. So when it comes to your headshot, your bio, it's a huge, huge opportunity. And, it's never been easier for consumers to access information. So if we're not making a really strong first impression there, that's certainly a missed opportunity. And FAQ pages are also a new theme, again, coming back to that theme of snackable content, creating a little bit more depth. I've talked to and worked with so many attorneys, whether they've been doing divorce law for 20 years or business law, immigration. A lot of times folks that are coming in, they have usually the same 10 or 20 questions, right? And you're constantly getting into those topics. So those are great areas of opportunity to create a little bit of focused content on those really hot button questions. And then click to call is pretty straightforward, but essentially, again, coming back to the statute of liberty, mobile usage, I can't remember how many was it, 300 feet. If we're not providing links to make it very easy to call, that's certainly something that has to be done in today's day and age. So we talked a little bit about claiming the Google My Business listing. Facebook for Business is also definitely something that you'd like to go out and claim. Yelp for business owners would also be a good place to claim your business, as well as Bing Places for Business. The idea, and oftentimes the second one is Bing, because technically, from a market share standpoint, Bing has 10% of the market share, roughly, give or take. Don't quote me on that. But again, a lot of folks overlook Bing, so I would definitely encourage you to claim your business listing. And every website has a slightly different process for claiming. But again, if you just hop on Google and type in, claiming Google My Business, Facebook for Business, claiming my Bing place for business, you're gonna get to the proper starting point. Again, I think the idea here, this might even be a little bit dated, but if you go to, how to claim Google My Business, this page will show up, and then you click Manage Now, and you should be able to get started. If you do already have a Google account, ideally it's best to log in with that information. There's same idea with Bing Places for Business. And then we're going to kind of move into business awareness. The whole concept of business awareness is really, to a certain extent, and I'm going to talk more about social media, but the new kid on the block, right, in terms of big web companies as Facebook, or social media in general. It's not just Facebook, right? But the idea is, these companies have so much information around who people are, right? And I think that the typical thing that I hear from folks is, well, Ryan, I'd love to just get more paying clients. And I hear you loud and clear there. But I definitely think that we now live in a world where we have to find more depth into who your clients really are. And these are some basic things that we can do, targeting on language, age, education, household income, male versus female. But the idea is, one example that I'll bring up is this gray divorce. I actually heard, and I won't name names, but I had a client tell me that we did a post on gray divorce. We targeted toward women who were actually earning more, or were the breadwinners. And that one post actually yielded about 3 new clients on Facebook that we actually did. So to, kind of, begin to think about who you're really serving. I remember too, like I was talking to an attorney in a college town, and finding a way to, connect on criminal law matters for college students. Facebook, I think, is the ideal platform to do that, or Instagram and some of the other sites that are out there. But the idea is, there is the kind of the non-buying, or there's the buying and non-buying audience. What's really cool about Facebook is, historically we always had to wait for people to look for you or at least have a related question. Now we can take your message and get it out there to the right person before they even need your service. We've also found that like estate planning topics, particularly right now in this environment, are incredibly effective on social media platforms. Anyway, hopefully I didn't beat a dead horse on that slide, but I think it's a good one. The other thing I think, is the competitive analysis and creating that awareness. I guess the idea is, if you're in Minneapolis and you're really trying to target DUI only in Hennepin County, that's going to look a little different than, say, trying to handle ERISA cases, for example, throughout the Twin Cities or even the state. Again, just different competition levels, right? And really getting dialed into, what is going to, I guess, what are the factors in the market that are going to really drive performance. And I think I don't want to discourage folks, obviously, if you're on this call and you're trying to target, for example, DUI in the Twin Cities. It's just a different strategy might be necessary to actually get and build an audience quickly, and find a way to get the strategy to work, whether that's doing social media or pay-per-click or search engine optimization. So coming back to social media, I'm going to just start with this slide, but 84% of US consumers are on social media. 68% of Americans use Facebook. 44% of the US population get their news from Facebook. And 40% are more likely to use a lawyer with a social presence. Here's what I would say is actually last week there was a ABA roundtable, and one of the attorneys that was on that roundtable basically was encouraging everyone to get much more active on Facebook. And what I'm hearing is, and I shouldn't just say Facebook, social media is definitely what I kind of consider what SEO was like 10 years ago. I really do think it is a huge opportunity. And the other thing that I oftentimes forget to connect the dots is your activity in social media and blogging is also going to bolster your search engine optimization or your organic search engine optimization results. As far as Facebook for Business, one thing you can all do, here's a quick tip, search for your firm on Facebook, click the gear icon under the cover photo and choose, is this your business? Enter your firm's information, and then verify your business through email. I know I mentioned that before, but just a quick tip if you haven't really done much with Facebook. And really branding your social media, I think, is important. Looking at your voice, helpful, friendly, positive, professional, choose your tone and stick to it. I think that's important to find your voice. That's like, one of the first things you've got to do. And then brand colors should be defined and adhered to on social media. Stock imagery, filters, your firm should choose some photo standards. And then also identifying keywords or topics of interest and facilitate a search method, including hashtags. And if you want to, my kind of twist on this is there's one, you have to kind of understand organic versus paid. And I guess the idea is if you just post content to your blog and then you post that to your Facebook page, that would be an example of organic content that could, in theory, rank with the search engines like Google or Bing as well. That paid content is, where you're actually getting the ads that are, you're actually using Facebook's ad platform as an example, or LinkedIn's ad platform, where you're scrolling through your feed and you actually see the ad pop up on your feed. And so the idea here, if you kind of want to simplify it, is you have to pick your channel. So, it's not probably realistic for every firm to do, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. If I were in your shoes, I would maybe start with one if you haven't chosen one and really go after that one. I'll admit I have a little bit of a bias for Facebook because it is big and it's it is the most popular platform that's out there right now. And Facebook kind of does a lot of things, whereas some of the other social media platforms like Instagram is a little bit more of a glossy, like magazine sort of feel. And it could be right for some folks. I don't want to dissuade you, but I just think there's more functionality to Facebook for a law firm. Again, so pick your channels, find your voice, and then creating entertaining content or sharing interesting content. So you know, again, it comes back to content is king. You can't just honk your horn all the time and expect people to, expect Facebook or any social media site to blow up your business. It doesn't necessarily work that way. And then amplifying. So again, coming back to that paid content, that's where we're really seeing a big difference. Is really Facebook is driving a lot of visitors and engagement through its advertising platform. And then lastly, if something does go bad, and it seems like every conversation I have with social media is, well, what if someone says something? What if someone calls me a 4-letter word on Facebook? And trust me, I've read it all. One of the good things of the industry growing up over time is there's more features in place on Facebook to deal with some of that. You can hide comments as an example, just so you know. But the idea too is, if something legitimately gets bad, or say you get a negative Google review, that's technically, a form of social media. We encourage folks to, provide a candid response and try to use some empathy if you get a negative review. Unfortunately, there is another form of flack where there's fraudulent reviews out there. I'm dealing with people that are getting reviews that people don't even know who they are or where they're coming from. I do think in really competitive areas of law, there is some shady review stuff going on. And admittedly, Google and some of the other, tech giants have kind of come out and said that they don't have a great way of dealing with this sort of stuff. They do have some processes in place. We try to leverage them. But I guess the bottom line is the best offense, or a great offense is your best defense. If you get a negative review from someone you've never heard of, just focus on getting those positive reviews. So the other point here is Google AdWords. And I will say that Google AdWords, particularly in a competitive market, I think is important. We actually had a Google AdWords speaker in May. Some of you may have even attended that speaking event. I thought it was pretty well done. I also learned things from our Google AdWords speaker. But the idea is, just to kind of jump into it, there's different strategies. There's introductory, complementary, branding, and time sensitive. But the idea is with Google AdWords, what I kind of like about it is for all the impressions, because what everyone says is, well, people don't click on Google ads. And to a certain extent, that's true. Like, a lot of people don't click on Google ads. But you actually right now get those impressions or those views. So if your search ad appears, for example, in the top 4 placement, or even on the bottom 3, there's technically 7 ad spots on Google. You don't get dinged, or you're not paying for that impression. You're only paying for the actual clicks. That said, just because you're getting a click doesn't mean you're getting a call either. And that gets into your, quote unquote, conversion rate. And I probably should have done a little bit more content around conversion. It is definitely a big topic these days. But staying on topic, basically, these 4 strategies can attract more business at high level. First, basically there's the supplementary PPC strategies, which can really build on organic search marketing pursuits. So, let's say you're doing search engine optimization for, let's say, divorce in Edina, and you want to just bolster your visibility. You could, budget, some amount of money toward, a pay-per-click budget. What's kind of cool about pay-per-click is it is Google's quote unquote flagship product. You know, one of the cliche things that I always say is that it's not really a question of if it works, it's just getting it to work is the key. But you know, ultimately it is right now I'm pretty sure it's the most popular ad product on the market. So it's definitely something that a lot of folks are doing, but it's hard to do. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So the complementary strategy gets them more visibility for keywords they're just beginning to target and search. So again, kind of like, you know, I want to try something different. Like a lot of times they'll be like, right now there seems to be a theme of, well, you know, I kind of want to get into more estate planning work during the, you know, this time. And so starting a pay-per-click campaign can be one of the easiest ways that you can quickly get into another practice area to complement what you've already been doing. And then third, the branding. So this is a big thing, and it's come up where, like, if you Google your name, and I would encourage everyone to just Google their name and see what pops up. In some instances, and again, I won't name names, if I Google the firm name, other firms can bid on your name. So this is definitely a theme. So let's say, you know, I want to bid on my competitor, you know, 2 miles down the road for me. So if anyone Googles their firm name, let's just call it Johnson & Johnson Law Firm. Well, sure enough, the first pay-per-click ad is not Johnson & Johnson Law Firm. It's actually Tower Law Firm. So something to be aware of, and the takeaway with the branding is, hey, you might want to protect your brand and bid on your own firm name to make sure that your competition isn't. The benefit of a branded campaign is generally the cost is pretty low to do it. So hopefully that makes sense. And then there is a time-sensitive strategy which can be added temporarily to an ongoing pay-per-click advertising campaign. And, you know, I guess the best example I can think of is the Sturgis rally that is actually coming up right now. I'm actually dealing with that right now. It's August 7th, so it's like a week later, but, you know, folks are gearing up for that, so.
Hey, Ryan, I think just interject here quickly. Skylar was wondering if you could define pay-per-click.
Oh, okay. A definition of pay-per-click. So the idea is, you know, really, it's a good question. I'm just going to go back here. And so Skylar, thanks for your question. The idea is these pay-per-click ads. So if I go back to Google, on this business divorce lawyer search, you can see there's business litigation lawyer in this ad with the 651 number, and then this Irwin law firm that's showing up actually with a 507 number. These are Google ads, okay? And Google allows 4 to populate at the top of Google. And if you scroll to the bottom, there is actually an ad at the bottom. So there's 4 on the top and 3 on the bottom, but generally speaking, and again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about pay-per-click, but hopefully that does the trick. It looks like I'm going to try to cruise through this. Am I sharing my screen properly?
Yep, we can see the Google page.
Okay, we're going to go. I'm going to sorry, I forgot to hit share. All right, so I'm going to try not to talk too much about the legal directories. But I will say that if you do a search that is, say, divorce lawyer, or even more specific searches that are out there, but generally that buying intent sort of search is what a lot of these legal directories are targeting. We often call these, end of funnel searches. We, generally speaking, I would say that, those properties are making up the bulk of the first page of organic search results. And this is, I'm going to kind of get into this a little bit more, but I'm going to make a point on the next slide. But these are actual screenshots. So I'm going to get into real data of a client of ours. I'm not sharing, the name, but it's just, the idea is, hey, this is a law firm that is in the backyard, so to speak. Where is your traffic coming from? And essentially it breaks it down by all the major channels. So there's the network directories, and this is a little bit biased because it's only bringing in the directories that Thomson Reuters owns, not all of the legal directories like lawyers.com and Justia, which are legit directories. They're certainly very popular. And then the local optimization. So you can see again the amount of local traffic, and this is really going to vary a little bit on the history. It could be 10%. I've even seen it as high as 20%. It just depends on how well it's bolstered the competition. You can see social media is close to 30%. That's an eye popper, I think, for a lot of folks. And I'd say this is 20 to 30% is par for the course. Again, pay-per-click, but the beauty of the pay-per-click is if it's working well. I've seen some of our pay-per-click strategies convert at say a 30%. So that means, let's say if you got 100 clicks in a pay-per-click campaign in a given month, 30 of them would actually be contacts. Organic search. So again, organic can be really big, especially for those folks who've been at it for a while and doing kind of the right things, playing the Google search engine optimization game. And then there's other referring domains. So that would be, let's say a yelp.com or something like that. It could be a lawyers.com. And then direct is actually direct traffic that folks have, bookmarked the law firm site. So it gives you a little perspective there. Coming back to the directories, one of the most common, I think, myths out there is that legal directories are a waste of money. And again, I'm trying to remove my bias because I work for a company called FindLaw, right? But I always say, hey, the numbers don't lie. So again, coming back to kind of my approach and applying some science to this and objectivity. Now you might be saying, well, Ryan, FindLaw, you just picked a slide where, FindLaw is doing really well. I will say if I look at 100 of these reports for any of our clients, generally speaking, the bounce rate for the legal directories hovers between, I would say, 35 and 50%. And in this case, the Google bounce rate is really low. But the idea is this bounce rate is the rate at which people come into a site and leave quickly within 2 seconds, okay? So what I always try to encourage folks to do is, instead of just saying, well, yeah, I'm getting business from the internet, let's try to understand, okay, where is that business coming from, right? And try to create more meaning to what we're doing because, again, I'm a big believer in just being educated, being informed. That's why we're all here today. So the other thing is we can look at the contact form submissions and contact page views. But again, coming back to that analytics software, not just FindLaw can do this, right? I mean, any good a search engine optimization firm can run reports like this. So I think what I really dig about this slide is it really kind of brings into that conversion rate. And again, that conversion rate is that the rate at which people are clicking to your site and then deciding to contact you. And I think that's if you're sitting in the, for example, in the Twin Cities, where let's just say the markets are a little bit more competitive, I would say you have to start thinking about what your conversion rate is, because let's just say it's easy to get a click in this business. It's much harder to get a contact. Here's a really good, I think, slide on social advertising. And again, this is, maybe not even the best example, but 77% of referring traffic is actually coming from social media on this particular example. And we can also see that Facebook is ranked number 2 as the top referring domains. And I will say, when a post really goes bonkers on Facebook, a lot of times Facebook will actually drive more traffic than Google. So for a lot of us who've been in this business for a long time, I mean, these are kind of eye-popping activities. And I really like this. So this comes back to Skylar's question on, hey, what is pay-per-click? Our account level. So this is a report that we can run that actually shows the number of clicks, the impressions. So this line right here, this blue line, is the actual clicks. So it's basically June 1 to June 30. And it provides the actual number of clicks and then the impressions. So the idea is the amount of times the ad showed up is called an impression with the clicks. And then that CTR is the click-through rate. That's 8.25%. And then the search impression share, actually, Google gives us an idea of how many times our ad is showing when the keywords are being searched. So again, just some super cool metrics that we have access to on these pay-per-click campaigns. And the pay-per-click strategist notes on this are our account level impression share over the period was approximately 86%. This means our ads appeared for 86% of searches related to the practice area keywords we are targeting. Our ads appeared more often than most competing firms in the local market. The graph below illustrates this. The blue dot represents our ads, while the other dots are competitors in local markets who are also doing pay-per-click. I did not include that graph because it revealed firm names, but again, it actually cranks out a report with the firms that are actually competing for the same keywords. And then this is a cool slide from Ahrefs, which is basically a software on managing pay-per-click campaigns. And this looks at car accident lawyer for Las Vegas. It's really, it's a little bit small. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but if we were in Las Vegas targeting best car accident lawyer Las Vegas, the cost per click is $465, just to kind of give you an idea. So again, coming back to the competition, I always think that one of the most common sins that all of us in business often commit are it's really around insularity and making decisions in a vacuum. And I that's been part of my mantra has been trying to help solo firms pull away from that insularity as much as possible. I'm always trying to fight it myself. I'm looking for new ideas and feedback. But the idea is there are a ton of really awesome tools that are available to you. And I think that, I just encourage you to ask some of the hard questions and take some of those steps to learn more. I think a lot of good can come from it. So as we're wrapping up, I think as usual, I am going on and on here. So I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly, and then maybe we can answer some questions if there are some. So basically, marketing basics aren't out of your reach. Create business plan and a little bit more self-awareness. Get educated about SEO diagnostic analytic tools that are out there and monitor your performance. And I actually didn't provide this, but we do have some guides to help you get started. And I would just say, the world is getting pretty complicated when it comes to internet marketing. I would consider a professional if you can't do this alone. So yeah, if you do have any questions, it looks like we have about 7 minutes left or something like that. And just to kind of make sure I am clear, there's lawyermarketing.com is where we have a lot of information, and the how-to guides are available on lawyermarketing.com as well. So just a couple topics: website essentials, headshot how-tos, claim your listing, and what's your story. Again, it's all written for small law firms, and it's free information. So, and it's something you could do tomorrow if you want. Did anyone have any questions or?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. There were a couple of questions. I think maybe you addressed this earlier. I just wanted to make sure that Gregory's earlier question about Google versus other social media as far as response rate, I thought you addressed that one, but thought I'd just double check here. Sorry, way up in the chat there. Gregory just asked if there was any feedback on the response rate or effectiveness of Google versus other social media.
So the effectiveness of Google versus other social media. I think that, really to address that question, in an ideal world, it sort of depends. Like sometimes, folks have to make a decision if we're going to, try to get business from Google or let's say Facebook alone. Ideally, we're doing both because I know that there's opportunity in both. But what we can do with the help of analytics is we can look in more depth on, what really is working. Even if you look at Google and we start to pin down the things that we look at to evaluate performance. So one of the setbacks of analytics for Google SEO is that Google will not share the keywords that are actually driving clicks to your website. We can look at your top pages, so that gives us a hint. But it doesn't actually say what was shared. Back in the day, we used to get that information 10 years ago, where if I Googled, what is the, custody statute in Minnesota, and that drove a click to my website organically, I could show you that search. Now, with pay-per-click tool, pay-per-click will actually share that information. So that's one reason I'm talking about Google AdWords and pay-per-click, is because you're just getting a lot of information with Google AdWords and pay-per-click that we're not getting organically. That said, generally speaking, the more niche or more long tail the search, the more relevant organic search results are. So, an example might be, what is a no-fault law for a car accident in Minnesota? That's a great long tail question. And having a really good blog post targeting like a niche question like that would be fantastic for you to rank organically. And then coming back to, again, the blog or Facebook, again, because you can't, it's very difficult to separate the two because they really work in tandem. It's like if you have that same blog post and you boost it on Facebook and it gets a lot of likes, well, lo and behold, Google's going to pick up on those signals, those social signals, and want to rank it more. So in an ideal world, we're not, going with one and not the other.
Kay
Hopefully
asks, I need to hire someone to help me with my Google listing. Is there someone you can recommend?
Well, here's what I'll say is because this is a CLE, I'm not supposed to make this really a sales pitch. I'm not sure if you have any guidance, Mike, on how I should answer that.
Yeah, I think, those are good questions for Ryan offline for sure. I think you should feel free to reach out to Ryan.
Sure.
And I would say the Solo Small community has this conversation quite regularly at the Solo Small community.
Yes.
On the online forum there. You would most certainly get a recommendation.
Yeah, and they're a great group, and I'd like to think that I'm the only game in town, but I'm not. But in terms of claiming your Google business, frankly, I can just give you some pro bono, coaching advice on the side in terms of getting started. So I'm happy to do that.
Don wants to know, how much did you pay for the 2-letter domain name?
The 2-letter for tr.com. I cannot answer that. But that is a very interesting question, and I might have to follow up with Don on that one. I might be able to get that information.
Here's an interesting one from C. Hansen. What are you seeing or recommending as far as hours per week or hours per month dedicated to marketing for a solo practitioner?
Hours per week in marketing. I personally think that for a solo, it's if you can create some kind of weekly habit, that would be ideal. We're living in a world where we would blog weekly or multiple times a week. There are some folks saying that you need to be, doing something every day now. But I think the question, really becomes like, do you want to spend your billable hour, your billable time doing a lot of marketing versus not? And, frankly, I think it kind of depends on the firm. So I think that to a certain extent, most firms need professional help. But at the same time, it is a collaborative process. And the analogy I always use is, if you don't know how to do the salsa, then, we got to kind of work together to do the dance together. And so I would just encourage everyone to learn to salsa a little bit more.
Thanks, Ryan. I did get the slides, Mark, from Ryan. A couple of questions about where are the slides going to be. They will be in the Practice Law Library along with the recording of this presentation. So that'll be available for folks in the Practice Law Library in the CLE folders folder, or the CLE materials folder.
And yeah, for the record, if anyone, my contact information is here. By all means, if you've got, some questions, if you just want to spend a few minutes with me bouncing different ideas off, I'm more than happy to provide, what knowledge I have on this subject area, and I'll try to point you in the right direction. I guess the last thing that I just wanted to kind of talk about before we let everyone go is that there is a big update that's coming up. Just so you know, it's called, it's a Google update called Core Web Vitals. and it's expected in 2021 to come out. And I would just encourage everyone to Google Core Web Vitals, and it'll give you a great perspective, just like what Google is up to and the types of updates. But this is a big one because they're announcing it already. And it's getting into like user experience and, you know, mobile page speed and things like that. So, and it's going to be a big one.
Doing that right now. Thanks,
All right.
Ryan.
Yeah, I think we hit our time, haven't we?
We have. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, Ryan.
My pleasure.
I've pasted in the CLE code for this event a few times, but I'll just state it out loud for the folks who are also listening in. The CLE number, CLE code is 313753. That's 313753. Again, thank you so much, Ryan. What a great presentation. Thanks for joining us.
I really appreciate it. I hope everyone found it helpful, and just again, grateful for the opportunity. I hope everyone has a great day today.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.